Not only are you a young property investor, not only are you a female property investor, you are a 3-time winner in 1 year at the Property Investor Awards.
Deal of the Year, Short Lease Deal of the Year, and Young Investor of the Year.
What did that deal look like?
It's a commercial property that I bought for $96,000. I spent $40,000 on it, and it's now worth $425,000.
Winning these awards, how do you feel it's changed the way in which people view you as a property investor?
For the first time, people are actually paying attention to what I do.
Would you say there's a difference between...
I'd say so, yeah.
I was arguing with someone about this the other day.
This is where me and you differ. Actually, wait, I'm going to ask you a question.
Welcome back to another episode of the PBK podcast, our property-based podcast where each and every week we talk to an amazing guest. Today we have Mariam Radi. How are you doing?
Hi, Kazy. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a huge fan of the podcast, and the studio looks even nicer in person. Actually, I was really excited to see what it looked like.
It's all about leveling up, right? So we started somewhere and we're just getting progressively better. We are now at big up our recording studio, LTV Studios in East London. They make sure that we're able to deliver these podcasts to you each and every week. Now, we got you on because not only are you a young property investor, not only are you a female property investor, both of which are already niches, you are a 3-time winner in 1 year at the Property Investor Awards. What awards did you actually win?
It's actually crazy when I say it out loud because it's something that I had in my vision board for so long. So even when I say it and I'm like, I won these awards, I'm like taking a moment with myself, like I actually did that. But Deal of the Year, Short Lease Deal of the Year, and Young Investor of the Year. And I'm the only person that won Young Investor and Deal in the same year.
Amazing. Which awards means the most to you?
Deal of the Year because it's the most competitive. I went into it, I would have been happy with just Young Investor because I was finalist last year. So that's the one that I kind of put in my head that I wanted to come back and win. And I applied for Deal of the Year because I thought you don't lose anything. I didn't imagine that I would get it. But what's funny is I was at the awards evening last year. Were you there?
Not last year, I was there this year.
Oh, okay. Because last year I was literally sat in the corner behind a pillar, like nobody knew who I was, to the point where when they released the official photos, this is how invisible I was. I wasn't in any of them. And then they announced my category, and I think Emma Fielding she won. So they were like, Mariam Radi and Emma Fielding. Before they announced their winner, the people on my table were like, we think Emma's gonna win. I was like, guys, come on, she probably, and she did, but so I was so invisible. I walked out of that and I thought, okay, I'm going to speak to some judges. I'm going to stalk the winners and I'm going to see how I can come back next year and walk out with something. Because this whole invisibility thing, the invisibility cloak that I apparently had on.
that wasn't for you. Do you feel now that you've got the awards, do you feel more seen?
Yeah, definitely. I think as much as I surprised myself having won it, I think I surprised a lot of other people. I think because I don't document my projects online, I don't think anybody really expected me to have won it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I pushed myself so hard last year, because I knew that I had to do something that was incredible for me to win an award. And I think I exceeded my own expectations and everybody else's, but it just kind of showed me how much I tend to limit myself because I removed the limitation for 1 year and I was like, I increased the bar on myself and I managed to do something that I never thought that I could.
Talk to me about the deal. So what did you have to do to win Deal of the Year? What did that deal look like?
It's a commercial property that I bought for $96,000. I spent $40,000 on it, and it's now worth $425,000.
Oh, wow. So give us a bit more of a breakdown, those numbers, because I think one thing about property is a lot of the time, like we lead with headline numbers, but talk to me about the process. How did you find the deal? Where is it? Where did that £40,000 get spent? Give me the ins and outs. I
actually think one of the reasons why I won the award was because of how I acquired the property. I think the numbers are good, but when I reviewed a lot of the other finalists, they could match my numbers. But I think it was the strategy that I adopted. So there's two properties in question. There's a HMO and then there's a hairdressing salon right next to it. I was initially interested in the HMO because that was what I saw online and for sale, but the sales kept falling through for this and my offers weren't getting accepted. I was 24 at the time. And then I found out that it was because the owner of the HMO was illegally renting out the basement of the hairdressing salon next door. So if you buy the property, you're inheriting a lawsuit. There's this thing in law called adverse possession. Have you heard of it? Well, just in case you guys haven't, essentially adverse possession is, it means that the law will just give you a property if you occupy it for 10 years. But of course, there's terms and conditions, like you have to occupy it for an uninterrupted period of time. You need to blatantly occupy it. You can't be secretly hiding in a property. The owner must have neglected it pretty severely, and you have to have a defined border. So there is categories. And do you know why this exists in law?
Why?
It will just award your property if you make use of it.
Okay.
Because if you neglect a property, then it can bring down the property values of the properties next door to it. It's not generating anything into the economy. If you're living in it, then you're paying bills, so that's money going into the economy. It can attract vermin, pests. We do have a housing crisis. And so this is one way for the government or the law to make sure that properties are not being neglected. So they've introduced this thing called adverse possession. It's not specific to just the UK, by the way. It's something that exists in the US. And I want to say every land law legislation in the world might have an adverse possession clause. And in a way, this is what the owner of the HMO was saying. She said, I've been renting it for 10 years and therefore it should be mine, blah, blah, blah. I didn't think it was a winning case because one of the key components of adverse possession is you have to say that the owner didn't know due to their own neglect. If that person turns around and says, no, I knew you were there, I just couldn't get you out of it, kind of throws your whole case out. And it's not an easy case to win. But still, I familiarized myself with it. Knew she was struggling to sell this HMO because of it, and that anybody that doesn't understand it isn't going to want to bother with it. Because if you get sued, you're going to lose a room, you're going to lose all the income that you've got from the room, and you could get a penalty. And you're literally losing a part of the property that you paid for. So I put an offer of $90,000 below market price for the HMO, and I told her if she throws in the freehold to the property next door, I will take legal responsibility for this whole thing. What she didn't realize is legal responsibility transfers with ownership anyways. So even if she sold it to me or she didn't accept my $90K offer or whatever happened, if I become the owner of this HMO, I will have to deal with this. Yeah. But she gave it to me anyway, so I now had the freehold to this hairdressing salon. Step 2 was acquire the leasehold. The leasehold had 50 years left on it. The salon was neglected for about 2 decades. I think she's owned it for, I don't know how long, like 30 years or something. We went through the conveyancing with the HMO and the lending, and I was so young and yada, yada, yada. And I did some research on the commercial property, found out the owner's in prison for debt recovery. All of his assets are seized by debt recovery. I think he borrowed a large amount of money, couldn't pay it back. And essentially that's something that happens. You can go to prison if you owe a tremendous amount of debt that you can't pay back. It can become a criminal offense. So he was in prison because of it. All of his assets seized by debt recovery, including this hairdressing salon. And I knew immediately nobody was going to push an adverse possession. Nobody was going to care if you're renting out the basement. The owners just want to sell it. They don't want to sell it cheap. They want to get as much money that they can for it. And me, on the other hand, want to buy it for as cheap as possible. So now I was in a bit of a different conundrum. I reviewed the lease, found all the ways in which they had violated the lease, and I drafted out 7 letters of claim, completely ignoring the fact that we were illegally renting out the basement. I was like, if they mention it, we'll address it, but I'm not going to be the one to bring it up. They hadn't paid ground rent. The properties were in a state of disrepair. They were trespassing. The funny thing is about letters of claim is you can actually put anything in them. So I had about 3 legit ones and 4 speculations. Ethical because it was debt recovery that I was dealing with. It wasn't like a family of 4, Yeah. It was just this bank that wanted to get its money back. And I sent those letters out and I made them an offer of $100,000 to buy it out. I had 150 and I was like, this is as far as I can go. And when you put an offer, your initial offer is like the lowest you think that it's going to be worth. Nobody's going to come back with a counter offer of anything lower. So I put 100 thinking, right, they're going to come back with something higher. And I was willing to go up to 150. They didn't just reject my offer, they ignored it. And then they put it on auction, which you
Yeah.
can't do because I'm the freeholder. They had to take my permission. Um, so I called the auction house, and this was actually the reason why I issued 7 letters of claim, so that they couldn't sell it to anybody else except me. Because
So it's
when
like a
you,
chess move. You said, okay,
yeah,
if I'm gonna position this, I'm gonna make it more adverse. I'm gonna make it less attractive, which means
exactly,
less people. And I think
they're going
it's
to
a
be,
really good point. And obviously, a lot of negotiations are positioning. So
yeah.
you do A because you know B's coming up and it's gonna put you in a stronger position to negotiate.
And you mitigate the risks. So I thought, if they don't want what can I do to make sure that they negotiate with me? I mean, the way that the hairdressing salon is built, it was very integrated into the HMO. It would cause a nightmare for me if anybody else bought it. They didn't care about that. So it went to auction. I called the auction house and I told them about the history between the two properties. And legally, they had to disclose it because legal responsibility transfers with ownership. And then I bought it for 96, which
Okay.
is 4K below my budget. No, it was like what? Oh, 55K below my budget. But that meant that I could start works immediately because I put 150 aside. It was a hairdressing salon, so it was 75 square meters. Oh, funny thing is, we go into the property and it has a basement. And I'm like, she was never renting out its basement. Like, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
This whole time, like years, this lady's renting out a basement because I think the architects messed up with the floor plan and drew it in a way where it looked like there was only one basement to the property, whereas this whole time there was two. She just never realized because the guy next door had left the commercial property. And so he never checked.
Okay. So, and that's the point of obviously having the right information, the right
Yeah.
access, and
I mean,
doing.
it worked in my favor. But yeah, but then we renovated it. We managed to do it cheap because you already had a bathroom, you already had like a kitchen unit where they'd wash the hair was all the waterworks. And for the most part, I want to say it was like a cosmetic renovation, 75 square meters, and turned it into a 1 bedroom flat. And they go for at least 350. Ours is 75 square meters. It's got a garden, it's got basement, it's ground floor access. It was brand new, and yeah, got an evaluation of 425.
Amazing. Whereabouts is the property?
It's in Greenwich.
Okay, so nice location as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you from originally?
Oh, I'm Iraqi.
No, as in, like,
Oh,
sorry,
shoot.
geographically. It's fine. It's all right.
Oh, so where do I live
Yeah,
currently? Way west, like
way west,
way West
west
London.
London. Okay.
West
So,
London.
in terms of that property, what was it like, in terms of saying, okay, I'm going to look at something over in Greenwich, you're not from that way, it's a
Yeah.
commercial property. How did you actually find it? Like, what was it about that property that first attracted you to it?
Um, I was very early on in my property career, and I was cautious of taking something that I didn't understand thoroughly. And at the same time, I wanted to do really well with it. The HMO was kind of a rundown buy to let. And I know everybody says don't go for buy to lets, but I wanted to go for something that was making money immediately just because of how new I was. I didn't want to run the risk of taking on a loan, not being able to pay it back. So that was my initial, that's why I looked at that HMO. And then when I realized that there was a problem that I could fix, for me, it was a no brainer, to be honest.
Your background, obviously outside of property, is law, right?
Yeah.
What area of law?
So I did my master's in international law, actually.
Okay. So how did that translate to you being able to review legals, being able to send out multiple letters of claim? Did you feel comfortable or did you still need to get assistance with that?
No, I felt pretty comfortable. And at law school, they'll teach you every area of law. So I had a big old textbook, land law and property law. And I worked in occupier's liability. So this is the liability that comes with when somebody occupies a property. And I also had experience in investment banking at that time because I was working in law. So in IB, I was reviewing so many documents over and over. And occupier's liability gave me an understanding of what your general rights or letters of claim. Litigation is what I did mostly. I wasn't drafting these and sending them out in my name. So I was working with a solicitor. I draft them out, I send it to him. And he wouldn't charge me because he didn't need to make any changes to it. And he was really nice like that. So he said, I'll
Okay.
review if it's final and I don't need to spend any time. He'll just send it out. And because I already had experience in it, he didn't need to change anything in the letters.
So I
He
think
just
that's
sent it out
important
with
when it
letterhead.
comes to people that obviously are utilizing skill sets they already have.
Yeah.
Because when we look at being efficient, you have to be efficient and use what you have to your advantage. So if you've got a background in project management, you've got a background in sales, if you spend your time in an area where you already have a skill set, you're going to see returns a lot
Yeah.
faster. And I think you utilizing your background from a legal standpoint obviously allowed you to identify a great opportunity. But this was your first deal in London, but had you ever done property prior to
I
this?
had, but I don't count it
Okay.
because I bought like a cheap, terrible terraced house in Manchester and I
Okay.
flipped it. But it was nothing special, to be honest. It was more like change the flooring, fit a new kitchen.
Mm,
So that wasn't a lot to boast.
yeah.
But I really enjoyed it actually because
Mhm.
I love design and I got to be creative and pick the bathrooms. And that's when I thought, okay, I want to do a bit more of property because of how much fun I had.
Mhm.
And it helped that I had a great team of contractors. I think that as a developer, most of the time you're only as strong as your weakest contractor. I did a project and I didn't use my contractor because I got a bit big headed and I was like, oh, this is easy, not realizing just how much I was relying on him. And the finishing was terrible. They would some days they weren't showing up, and it changed the consensus of the entire project. It went from something that I didn't have to worry about. I could, find new deals, focus on exactly what I needed to do, to literally being on Google, watching videos of like how do you repair a roof because the guy that I bought, I don't know if he knows how to do it, so I need to make sure that he's doing it properly. And I thought I am never ever gonna put myself in this position ever again. The uncertainty was driving me crazy.
So how do you do that going forward then? Because obviously you've transitioned from being in Manchester to being
Yeah.
in South London, but you're going to have to find new contractors. How did you give yourself that certainty when instructing new contractors?
I actually didn't find new content. I've been using my good old trusted
Yeah.
team.
From Manchester.
So they'll travel with me.
Okay.
And I have a lot of love for them and they're just fantastic at their work. This is one of the reasons why I think it's try to become a person that people like to work with
Hmm.
because I think I'm quite easy to work with and so is he. And if I send enough business his way, and he knows that the more that I grow, then he will grow too. So he actually doesn't mind. He enjoys the projects that we do together. Um, I always pay and I'm always, kind of,
So would you, that's interesting. So obviously with somebody transitioning all the way from the north to London, what do you do? Do you incorporate the travel costs, the overnight stays, you incorporate that in the budget, or is that their budget, or how do you work that out with them?
initially, so I'll provide accommodation.
Hmm.
So if they're doing a project in Manchester, because I just moved down from there, they can actually stay in my own house.
Hmm.
That is still up there. And some of the flats that we're going to do are Airbnb. So I don't cover travel, but I'll provide accommodation. And it's not a massive expense because we already have potentially Airbnbs or maybe a flat that might be empty. So usually it works out. And from a risks point of view, whenever I'm budgeting, I always add a 10% margin either way. If you're using contractors that you haven't used before, there's a very high probability that you're going to dip into that 10% margin and you're going to have to spend more. Whereas if you're doing a project you've done before with a team that you've worked with before, the probability of some massive scare, unless something happens in the actual property structurally, it's much lower. And it means that my numbers are much more accurate. I know how much they're going to charge. I know what this looks like. Even the way we source materials, I get the kitchen from the same place
Hmm.
and the tiles. Um, and so it makes it much more reliable.
Nice. Now, of the three awards, you touched on which one meant the most, but overall, winning these awards, how do you feel it's changed the way in which people view you as a property investor?
Um, I think that for the first time, people are actually paying attention to what I
Hmm.
do. Because I think the funny thing about being an investor, and I came from a legal background, and so you couldn't say that you were a lawyer unless you did the exams and you did the tests.
Hmm.
Um, and you could actually get into a lot of trouble if you just said you were. Whereas in
Hmm.
property development, anybody can say they're a developer, and there's no certificate to prove it.
Hmm.
And so I think that because of that, the industry attracts a lot of people that may be just getting started, beginning of their journey, but you don't always know who to take seriously and who not to. And I think I was somebody who people categorized in the we're not going to pay much attention to her
Hmm.
category, which is fine because I've been working for myself for the most part, anyways. But after winning the awards, I think people have been paying more attention to the projects that I do. And moved me to the other category.
Would you say there's a difference between a property investor versus a property developer? Now imagine this. You've just completed on a fantastic property. The renovation plans are buzzing in your head, but then the reality hits. Endless paperwork, slow bank transfers, and confusing accounting. That's where Tide changes the game. It's more than just a bank account, it's your all-in-one business toolkit. You can incorporate your company with ease, send invoices and get paid instantly, and track expenses effortlessly, further allowing you to save for your next big project with competitive interest rates. Tide takes the stress out of managing your finances so you can focus on what you do best, building a successful property portfolio. Which is why you should download the Tide app today and open a free business current account with the link in my description. Use the discount code PROPERTYBYKAZY50 and you'll receive £50 cashback when you spend £100 on your new Tide card. That's PROPERTYBYKAZY50 and you'll receive £50 cashback when you spend £100 on your new Tide card. Now back to the video.
I'd say so, yeah.
Where would you put yourself in that space now?
I think when you're doing it for yourself, you're a bit of both, because I'm investing the capital and then I'm also managing the project and making sure it's getting developed. Whereas there are people out there who, might invest with somebody else, so they will just provide the capital for the building cost. Somebody else is on site, and I think that whereas there's other people who won't invest any of their money and will just be project managers. So I definitely think there's a distinction.
Do you think, like, obviously you mentioned your Iraqi background, young woman in property. How important do you think the representation is for you as like for different ethnic background, for being young, for being female in property? How is it important for you to represent?
I actually haven't met another Iraqi girl in property. If there's one of y'all out there, reach out to me because I haven't met any. And I've met just a couple of Arab and Iraqi investors and developers, but not many. Maybe I'm just in the wrong circle. So if y'all out there, hit me up.
All right, let's do that. Now you're on a public forum, so we're gonna give you our details at the end. Make sure you connect
because I haven't met bridges. Any. But the bigger that I get, it is really important to me to become a source of, I even if it's motivation or at least a source of support for people that might kind of look like me, sound like me, might not see themselves on social, might not see a representation of themselves on social media or on TV, having a career in development. I might be able to kind of look at me and think, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And I wouldn't mind that at all. If somebody looked at me and said, if she can do it, I can do it. Because you're probably right. Yeah, what's stopping you?
Yeah, no, for sure. When we first spoke about your awards, you mentioned that it was something that was on your vision board and something that we've spoken about before that you find like vision boards.
And this is where me and you differ.
No, like we might not differ. Like stuff. I think, but you're a firm believer from my understanding in vision boards and manifesting, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Or what is it about it that's important to you?
I think that if you don't visualize exactly where you want to go, what your life wants to be like, then what are you working towards? Because I think it makes it difficult to focus when you don't have a clear vision of what exactly you want your life to look like. And I'm a very visual person. So for me to have like a board with a kind of lifestyle or career, little pictures of it, then it narrows down my thinking. And actually, wait, I'm going to ask you a question that my dad asked me way back when I was younger, and I've been thinking about it ever since. Let's say you're in an orchard and there's an apple tree and you want to eat an apple, but there's a guard guarding the apple tree. What do? Do you eat the apple or kill the guard?
Eat the apple.
Eat the apple. Yeah. Entrepreneurs always say eat the apple, whereas I've asked a couple of other people and they might say kill the guard.
Sounds a bit excessive over an apple.
I know, right?
I think you got a deeper, darker problem. If your answers are eat an apple versus kill someone, even if they're your two choices, I think like if someone says kill the guard, we're gonna have a long, hard look at whether you're allowed out in public.
Imagine I was like, do you want to kill the guard? And before I even said eat the apple, they're like, yeah,
kill the guard.
Kill the guard. I don't even know what for. It's like, get rid of him. But the reason behind that question is you need to focus on your goals. Sometimes your obstacles, and there's always going to be obstacles, are not your goal. So try not to pivot
Look, I
from
speak
that.
to some amazing people that are firm believers in, I spoke to people that we know, I think mutual people like Kevin Stewart.
Oh yeah.
Kev's a firm believer in, the vision boards and mentality or mindset. And I kind of get it, but I always get lost
Yeah.
in a point of I'm like, just do the work.
No,
Like
but I'm with you on
just
that.
do the
Yeah.
work. Like I get all of this vision and,
Yeah.
trying to, what's the word? Manifest and
Manifest.
all these
Yeah.
things, but do the work. Like,
Yeah.
because every time you do the work, you get like that instant feedback of you do something and somebody either says that was good, that was bad, okay, change this, pivot, move
Yeah.
on to the next step.
You learn more about
And
yourself
the more
too.
time that you spend trying to think about where you want to get, for me personally, I think the less time you spend on actually doing the work that's going to
Yeah.
allow you to get there. So if we use the example of somebody that wants to, I don't know, they want to run 100 meters in under 11 seconds. I can visualize running really fast. I can visualize me, crowd going crazy, the non-alcoholic champagne popping, everyone saying, yeah. But really, get up every day and do the work and just embrace the little wins on a daily basis.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. But you know what they say: if you aim for the moon, you land among the stars. So there might
I
not
really, by the
be.
way, sorry, I was arguing with someone about this saying the other day.
Oh, really?
No, because that's the right saying, but I was convinced that was the wrong saying because the moon is like underneath the stars. So really, it should be if you aim at the stars, worst case,
Yeah,
you'll
but
land on the
it's
moon.
a metaphor.
Yeah, you can tell that I'm a very literal
You're so
person.
literal.
I'm like, no, but like if I aim for the moon, worst case, I'm going to be just outside the atmosphere and then I'm not really going to be,
And there's no
the nearest
stars.
star is the sun. That's far.
Oh man.
But yeah,
Imagine
maybe,
ending up on
maybe
the
too
sun.
literal in that
Barbecue
sense.
Kazy on the
Yeah,
sun.
see, look, we don't have that flavor of barbecue Kazy. But I think it's interesting. I think what's great about business life, being an entrepreneur, is it doesn't really matter if you're a visualizer. It doesn't really matter if you're an active learner, if you're more theoretical. What it really comes down to is
Yeah.
understanding what works for you and
Mhm.
doing that. And I think that's one of like my issues with kind of mass social media, where it's like everybody's like, right, if you're not doing this, you're doing it wrong. But the reality is, if someone doesn't know you, they don't know whether you're doing it
Yeah.
wrong or right because it's going to be very personality led.
Yeah.
We've spoken in the past in terms of like what you're like as a person. What have you learned about yourself over the last 12 months that's
Mhm.
enabled you to be more successful?
Um, I think that I realized that I put a lot of limitations on myself.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm actually quite good at developments. I've been crunching the numbers ever since I was about 20. I didn't even realize that I was doing it because I've always kind of wanted to go into property and I love floor plans. And so I'd go on Rightmove and I would like mentally redraw floor plans. And it was just fun for me. My mom was an architect. So
Oh,
she used to
nice.
talk me through floor plans a lot and I used to like do it in my spare time. And then I used to calculate yields. And I just got into the habit because I drew a floor plan. I thought, oh, if I add a room and then it'll be worth this much. And I never call the agent or know what happens with it, but I would just do that often. And it became really easy for me to do. I'm quite creative. And so when I develop a property, it always looks, I mean, I don't want to but it always looks great. And then I have a great team of contractors that can ensure that the finishing is good. And I realized that having those three key ingredients, has actually enabled me. And because I didn't meet or know developers on a personal level for a really long time, I didn't realize that I could actually be good at this. I think that I was waiting for external validation because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, because of it, and I have a lot of fun with it, and that's the most important part. The only reason why I think I'm good at it is because I really, really enjoy it, and it's something that I think about when I'm like on the underground or like in my spare time. And if you want to be good at something, you need to find a way to enjoy it. And I learned that I'm actually quite good at this, which is weird
That's good.
for me to say out loud.
It is. I think definitely actually being able to have those conversations. And I think the more people that you're around that are doing similar things, you get a better
Oh,
feedback loop, a better
absolutely.
understanding that
The past
actually,
12 months, I have met people in the
mhm,
industry that I look up to so much, and I want to attribute like a huge amount of my success to. I mean,
mhm,
even like being in the same room as you, you're so good at what you do. Like it's
appreciate
so
you.
inspiring to me.
Oh, thank
And
you.
that has been a huge driving force, to be honest.
I think it's massively important
Yeah.
to be, I think you posted about it recently, but to not to be the small fish in a large pond
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of the
me.
time, because if you're the least experienced person in the room, then it may be a little bit uncomfortable, but you're the
Yeah.
person with the most to gain.
Mhm. No, yeah, and you are, they say if there's five idiots and you always hang out with them, you'll be the sixth,
Yeah.
right? But if it's like you're the sum of the five people that you hang around with, so if you're constantly surrounding yourself by people that are motivated, are supportive, then you'll make it. And what I love about our industry actually is I feel like there's more collaboration than there is competition,
Hmm.
which is incredible because it means there's a lot of space for people. Like I'm
Yeah.
always seeing people collaborating posts or projects or uplifting each other. And it's really because it means that you can pretty much go far in this industry. You're not constantly surrounded by people that are trying to, tear you down, which
Yeah.
is so nice.
No, definitely. I think that's something that I definitely found. I think if you're surrounded by people that have seen a lot of money and understand money, they'll
Yeah.
understand that there's more money in this world than there probably is anything else.
Yeah.
So they'll realize that you making money isn't going to hold them back and vice versa. And there's like a popular saying that, competition happens at the bottom and collaboration happens
Oh
at the
my
top.
God. I just read that on Instagram
You
story.
read that one, yeah? It's
Yeah. Did you
quotes.
see it too?
No, I didn't. I wrote it. No, I'm joking. I'm sure I don't know who I stole it from. It's probably been one of those recycled quotes that probably Stephen Bartlett. He always
But it's
steals. He
so
steals the
true.
best
Oh,
quotes.
fuck yeah, he does. But it's so,
Yeah,
so true.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
So,
just,
what's next for you?
well, I'm still working for myself because I moved down from Manchester. And the past year, what's weird, it was like my slowest development year because I mean, maybe two projects last year, and usually I do more. But it was because I just moved to London and I was giving myself time to settle into a new city, get to know people, and I just didn't put that same kind of pressure on myself. But I have about four projects in the pipeline for next year, and
Next
yeah.
year or this year?
Oh no, this year.
This year now, yeah, New Year, 2025.
No, next year, 2026.
I can't take a
2025, I'm
whole
just gonna
year
read
off.
this all day. No, yeah, this year. Um, and they're different. So one of them is going to be a HMO conversion. So I'm putting my team on that, my trusted team. The other is a house renovation, which is going to be the house that I live in. So I'm
Nice.
outsourcing for that, but I'm not going too far. So I'm using a contractor that one of my friends has used all the time. Um, so even if you try to, I know where he is.
That's it. I think, look, personal recommendations, we talk about it a lot, but for services, if you trust somebody, using the person they trust can often be a good hack. That being said, they're not necessarily going to do the same job they do for you, they did for
Yeah, yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else. You've still got to put your own safeguards and,
Yeah.
make sure you
Visit the
dot
site
your I's and
every
cross your
single
T's.
week.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
What do you find most difficult in property?
I think each property comes with its own challenges.
Hmm.
Um, as a whole, it changes as you grow. So when I was first starting off, what was difficult was filling my gaps,
Hmm.
the gaps in my knowledge that I hadn't yet filled with experience was the most difficult part. It's like I need to learn a lot of things in a short span of time um, about matters I didn't have experience in. So that was difficult for a while. Not difficult, but it was something that stressed me out a little bit because you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
Um, and then after that, it was a case of, okay, I need to make sure that we're developing a property for the, even if it's my third one, that everything just goes meticulous. And when you're young and you're new at something, then even if everything's going well, you're anticipating a disaster around the corner because
Yeah.
you just haven't done this before. Um, and then after that, it just started to become normal stuff, for doing a HMO, and we're building all these en suites, right? So now the challenge is the waterworks
Hmm.
for renovating my house. So the challenge is planning, and we're looking at a fire damaged property. So the challenge is structural, but then each property comes with its own challenges. But at least I managed to fill gaps of my knowledge with experience, and I have enough knowledge of the industry to be able to make informed decisions. And I've worked with my contractors enough to know that there isn't going to be a looming disaster around the corner like I thought there was. And then you can just tackle each project as it comes.
That's good. What does success look like for you?
I think it looks like happiness.
What does happiness look like for you?
I'm a people person. So I love my friends and I love being surrounded by people. I'm always, when my house is done, I always have people over. And so I think it's just having a good support system, just having people around you that you love you, that are there for you, that you can like have dinner with and laugh with and be there with. And I think that one of the driving forces for me wanting to be financially successful ties into the people aspect, because I'm just thinking in the future, if I want to have kids, I want to be able to, put them in good schools or travel often with them. And so it always kind of ties back to family, friends. Ultimately, that I think is what success is.
With that in mind, but the fact that you currently said you really love work and you love what you do, and you like, how do you think you're going to find that balance between taking the time to be with friends, considering that you actually love what you do work-wise?
Well, a lot of my friends are in the industry.
Okay.
So good. Like this is work, but it's also really fun.
Yeah.
Doing this podcast is like I'm just having a conversation with you. So there is some overlap when you have a lot of friends in the industry that you work in. But as I get older and better at what I do, I'm hoping that I can kind of be like the big boys in the industry and start to delegate and have other people perhaps do what I do. And it might free up some time. And I still think that I'm going to be working, but I might just be like in a corner designing all the floor plans and the furniture and being creative.
Picking the bits that you like.
Yeah, rather than the other stuff.
And finding that balance. Yeah. No, for sure. We've touched on social media, whether it be just through motivational quotes, whether it be through how you project your personal brand. We spoke previously about you finding your voice and your space in a very vast space.
Yeah.
How have you been able to find your voice on social media?
I think I'm still looking for it. I think I'm still finding it. But one thing that I've realized is authenticity. And everybody is themselves. And I think that's the best part of it, because I think one thing that actually resonated with me, I had a friend of mine say to me, this was like early stages of our friendship, was like, are you yourself right now? And I was like, yeah, like, what a weird fucking question is that? But the truth is that I actually wasn't. I was actually hiding behind just a mask. Not for any reason. I was just, I don't know why. I was just concealing parts of my personality and trying to, I rarely talk on social media. And I was just very careful because I was afraid of the criticism. But I still said, yeah, this is me. Because I wasn't going to say, no, actually. And then he said to me, oh, okay, good. No, yeah. And he goes, because I'm myself. So, and then that resonated with me. And I thought, oh my God, he is being completely himself. Why am I hiding parts of myself? Like, that's so unfair. And so I started to show more of my personality. And the more that I started to do that, the more I started to get more of a positive response from people, because I think that we naturally respond to authenticity. I don't think as human beings, if you were to like, strip us down to our core, that we like it when people are concealing themselves or so off the back of that, I'm just being me.
That's you just found media. Being the authentic.
Just watch everybody unfollow me now. She's gonna start being herself. Nope.
Nah, I think you are. I think obviously you've taken other parts of. But I think the great thing is people feel like if I'm the property person, I've got to live, eat, sleep, breathe property, and that's all I can talk about.
Yeah.
Whereas you take other areas of your life that you enjoy, whether it be fashion, whether it previously be the law, and you induct them into your personality. So people then can resonate with you because they're like, oh, you know what? I like Vogue magazines, whilst I also like Homes Under the Hammer. And it's great to see that I can do both without feeling like I'm neglecting one path or the other, which I think is good.
I think there must be some overlap between all of what I've realized. I think if you want to understand what your strengths are, look at what your hobbies are, because what you do for fun is probably what you're good at. I love fashion and design. And for a long time, I was like, oh, I can't bring that into property because it's so different. And I thought to myself, well, hang on a minute. Like literally Ralph Lauren, Versace, they have furniture.
Yeah,
All of these
homeware lines. Yeah.
fashion places have like have home sections. There is an overlap between, because ultimately fashion is design and art. And I am always tapping into the part of me that loves fashion is the same part of me that designs my own floor plans and picks out the kitchens and the bathrooms, and creates very space efficient areas. And it's meant that I've become an even better developer. And so this part of me that I thought there'd be no room for it in a professional career has actually been one of the strengths that I rely on. And so yeah, I think and so that's why I'm so open with like sharing it and stuff, because I not only do I love it, but I do think that it helps me out. And you know what? There's some people out there who their hobby is their sports, athleticism. And you see them on site and they're like able to do things that I can't do. And they're really helping their contractors. I can't ask my contractors. I show up and I can't be on the roof helping them out as much as I'd love to, because I love them. Whereas that might be your strength, that you are literally, you have exposure to elements of the development that maybe I don't, because you will be on the roof with your contractor, helping him out in a way that, I mean, even if I tried, I think I'd mess it up. I think I tried to do something at one point, like lay floorboards with him, and it was a disaster. And he spent half the time teaching me.
Maybe not for now. Talking about obviously transparency and your strengths, what would you, in hindsight, what's something you've done where you're like, that was a mistake, or I wouldn't go and do that again, given the choice?
So I see a lot of people online with their contractors, like hands on the ground, like doing stuff. And I thought, oh, like maybe I should be doing that. So I did earlier this year. We were laying down floorboards and we were doing like cosmetic work. It wasn't like fixing anything. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this with you guys and I'm going to learn like what it is that you guys do. And it was just terrible because they spent most of the time just teaching me how to do it. I think I did everything wrong. I wasted everyone's time. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I suck at this.
I've got evidence of that. Look at my shoe. There's paint on my shoe. I thought, oh, we had this paint from Bauwerk, who we're now partnering with to use like some of their lime wash paints. I saw the descriptions and it said, is it anyone can do it? So I said, oh, let me show you how to do it. Anyway, safe to say, I ruined my favorite pair of trainers. So this is after scrubbing them. But yeah, it's not that bad though, right? I've managed to bring them back because it is a water-based paint.
I don't even see the paint.
It's just little bits, but I see it. You know, mentally, I still see it.
Because you know where it is.
Because I know where it is, exactly that.
You're like mine. I got a lot of hate. I'm wearing zebra print heels.
Fine. I mean, I wouldn't go with them personally, but they're nice. We wore the same jeans, to be fair.
We did.
We did. Where are your jeans from?
Oh man, I think they're from some fast fashion place.
That's fine. There's
like
nothing
PLT.
wrong with it.
Oh man, not me sat with this wearing PLT jeans.
Listen.
I don't even know why I'm posing with this 2 pounds magazine.
You told me why you're posing. You said it's because you cut out everything out of there for your vision board,
and then
right?
you told me that you don't believe in vision board.
I just said, like, the time you took cutting it out, really, you probably could have maybe focused on some other stuff. But the world is a results-based business. And if whatever you do gets you the results, then no one can argue that you haven't done it the right way.
I'm not going to lie. I made my first vision board last year, and I didn't believe in it at the time. But I did it as an arts and crafts project, and I was moving down to London. And so I think I packed my TV, I packed everything in boxes, and I was literally just sat in like this house, and I didn't have anything to do, and my friends were all away. So I always buy Vogue magazines. I'm that person. If you ever see this magazine, you wonder who buys them. Mariam Radi buys them.
You're keeping them afloat, are you? 2 pounds at a time.
So I had a magazine, I had a big paper, and I got creative with it. I didn't really believe in it. So I put a big, massive Rolls Royce. I put 3 awards. I put London. I put a bunch of stuff, and I think I was watching The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills at the time as well. So I was in my manifestation era. And I still have that poster. And I've ticked off, I'd say, most of the things that are on it.
Okay, so
I've been to a Rolls Royce event.
Oh yeah, for us, were you there?
Oh my God, we went to a Rolls Royce event.
Exactly.
Little old me living in Manchester there was the idea of me being invited to a Rolls Royce event was like out of this world. Like I had no business adding that to my vision board. 3 awards, I won 3. I've had I'm so glad that I've moved to London. I've met so many incredible people. And I looked at it like recently when I was doing this and I thought, I mean, maybe it's just coincidence and maybe I would have gotten all of that even if I didn't put it on it. But it was a nice feeling to
Well,
be like, this
don't
is
don't tell us now.
he's not buying any of this.
No, I'm just saying we're gonna run a test.
Change the conversation.
Have you done a vision board this year?
I have.
Don't tell us now. Don't tell us what's on it. I don't know if that's how it works. I don't want to impact the jaja.
I don't. The jaja.
Whatever you don't call it. However, take a picture of it now, date it, timestamp it. We're going to revisit this 2026.
Yeah.
And we're going to go, we need to go 2 for 2. 1 for 1 could be luck. We're going to see if we go 2 for 2.
I want you to make one too.
You want me to make one?
Yes. You can borrow
I'll be
this.
honest. You see what this, can I make a digital? Can I delegate it?
You can, but I kind of want you.
To be arts and craftsy.
I do.
Pritt stick, scissors.
Do you love New York? You could put New York. You could put this quote on your vision board.
Ironically, I would actually pick, and it's not the best time for them now, but I would always pick LA over New York.
So you can, oh shoot.
Yeah. But still, we can have a look.
We can find an L and an A here.
All right, we'll make it work. But final question for you before we let you go. Speaking to a lot of people today, you're going to be reaching people that are aspiring property developers, investors. What would you tell like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old that wants to get into property? What would be some of your advice?
Lean on the people that are already in the industry. We're very collaborative. I know a lot of people that are happy to just give information. So find out which area of property that you love, or even if you're too young to know what that is right now, I think follow a lot of accounts and reach out to people if you have any questions. The worst that they do is not answering. You could just ask somebody else. And that way you learn a lot. I think knowledge is going to be your biggest superpower. And then by the time you're ready to get into it, you might already have a good, strong foundation. And then you might even build connections. I have some people that reach out to me with questions, and I'm always more than happy to answer where I can. But yeah, I think also the next step for me is I want to start developing for other people. We talked about this actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I'm doing it for myself right now, but I want to start doing it for others. And then, yeah, maybe create something.
Amazing. If people want to connect with you, find you, to ask you those questions, how can they find you?
I'm on Instagram and it's Mariam Radi. I'm also on LinkedIn, just my name, Mariam Radi. And you can contact me on either. I'm always monitoring my DMs. And yeah, expect a lot of property stuff from me this year. Prepare to get sick of me.
We're going to hold you accountable to that. Amazing. Well, that has been another episode of the PBK podcast. If you've enjoyed this and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. If you've got any comments, questions, let us know in the comment section, and make sure you like this video. And we'll be back next week with another amazing episode. Peace.